Hello, everybody. It's Jake Gino, host Jake Gino Podcast with my co-host, the multifamily mentor, the coach, chef, father, six, the best-selling author, the G-Daddy, Gino Barber. Gino, how's it going?
Also known as the gender reveal by my wife, because I've got a pink blue on today, so I don't know.
You're looking good, Gino.
Dude, if I was in New York, I'd be all black like Sean is. But you know what? I'm in Florida, and I love the weather down here. And you know what? I hate golf, but it's okay.
You look like you're ready for it. You fit in, Gino.
I'm doing good, brother. How you doing?
Always making it happen, big man. Today's guest has built multiple 10-figure businesses, including Scale Virtually, a remote staffing company which has generated 90 million plus in revenue. So without further ado, Sean Connolly, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it, Jake and Gino. Just to clarify, that's 90 million across all my businesses, not just my VA business. Just want to make sure.
Well, I don't know if you're including payroll or something there. I was like, people fluff numbers, but hey, man, it's a big number. It feels good. I really wanted to say Sean Connery when I saw it, and I thought we were going to talk some Jeopardy, but we'll leave it as Sean Connolly. You also did some fixing.
I'll say 007 all day long. That's my
no doubt.
Shamelessly go with it everywhere.
For folks that don't know you, though, share with us your background a little bit. You've done some fixing and flipping. I think you have a pretty significant fix flip business as well. So, not just the VA, you got real estate exposure there as well. So, talk about your come up in business in general.
Sure. When I got out of school, I went into sales. I was IT for like 1 year, went right into sales, and I was in online marketing for about 15 years where I started a series of different companies. I made really good money in those companies. And then I heard real estate was the passive game. So I thought I was retired when I was about 30. And then I got into real estate and realized it wasn't a passive game. But yeah, transitioned into real estate. And
can I say something real quick? Sure. I think this is where so many people get screwed. And I'm not talking about investors. Well, I guess I am. People will go invest in real estate thinking it's just an investment, but you're acquiring another business that needs to be treated as such. And I think that's the crux of most underperforming real estate businesses, is that it's viewed as just an investment. This is another business that you have to nurture, besides the people that mess up with the debt, right? It's either you don't treat it like a business or you don't finance right. But just wanted to point that out. Gino, what say you?
And Jake, to take it one step further, people don't know how to buy right. They don't know how to finance right. And ultimately, they don't know how to manage right. And Sean, through his extensive business experience, can probably relate that to buying a business or running a business. So the framework is not just for multifamily investors. You can use that to buy a business and to scale a business. And we always like to say, Jake and Gino, we create multifamily entrepreneurs because it is an entrepreneurial business. But the last point I'll make is if you understand how to invest as an active investor, you can ultimately become passive in this business if you know what you're doing. But people just think they're going to buy a business or an investment, or they're going to give their money to Jake and Gino and say, okay, see you later. If you don't vet the sponsor, that is a telltale sign that you may fail. So understand how to do it actively. And then if you want to start investing passively, that's okay.
Yeah, but I think Sean was actively investing, correct?
Yeah, I was. So everybody's got their war stories. I came out, I bought 9 multifamilies in my first 3 months. Hired the wrong guy to manage him. He screwed me royally, and then stepped in and took over construction for 5 years, built up all my teams. We got about 100-man construction crew now, and we're knocking out, anywhere from 20 to, 30 properties a month on the construction side. I do a lot of.
These are development deals or fix and flips?
These are mainly fix and flip, buy and hold. A portion of them I'm putting in my portfolio, and a portion of them I'm actually flipping just due to market location.
So if you're fixing them up, you're renting them out. Is that right?
We are. So we're renting them out, and we're also flipping. We're I was told we're the largest buyer at the Chicago auctions. So we have a big team set up to kind of attack. I wouldn't say attack, but actually go after all the different suburbs. So we buy in the Collar counties, and we also buy in Indiana and in southern Wisconsin. So anything that kind of borders where we're at. I have teams set up to kind of go after all that. Just to give you an idea of like the company setup. So I have Strata Investments, which is my private equity, and we buy all the distressed assets. I have a direct to seller company, and the direct to seller company, basically there's a full team of 8 people that every day are going after off market properties. So we try to buy it before auction, at auction, and then have a legal team that buys post auction. And I leverage virtual assistants in every aspect of my business. And I'm happy to share that with everybody today with how they've been instrumental in me scaling. We're poised to do about 40 million this year. And I literally work 1 hour a day in most businesses. It's all systems and processes that have changed the game for me. I read that Dan Sullivan book. He was my coach from Strategic Coach, Who Not How. And I made the decision that, back in the day, I was working 14 hours a day, burning the candle at both ends and completely stressed out, completely overwhelmed, was actually hospitalized with chest pains. And that's when I stopped and started building out.
You didn't get the shot, did you?
Get the what?
Oh, I was just making sure you didn't get the shot for the chest pains. We're making sure you're okay. Okay, cool.
No, I thought you were sending me a jab with Chicago.
No. Well, that too, I guess, right?
Yeah. Well, I won't go into that line. So just on the other end, that led to me having to build out all the systems and processes. As we were just talking about, thinking property management, like it's so wide and deep and it's so involved, and it's just from the maintenance side, the number of different things that can come your way, systematizing all of that to get myself out of it is really what I worked on with process engineers. So that's the step that I took to start removing myself from those businesses. But you can't leave them unless you have the right logic in place for other people to adopt and take on. So I basically took everything that I knew how to do and everything I learned in masterminds and then implemented that into systems and processes so my team can make their own decisions to kind of grow those companies for me.
Sean, you have a gentleman like Jake who's the I'm a guy. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. How do you convince somebody like that to actually adopt VAs? Because that's probably the biggest block that 90% of the people have. They're not even listening to VA. They're thinking that I've got to do everything myself.
I'm the number one control freak, and you'll see that when you guys have seen the level of detail that I put in everything. It's at another level. And everybody tells me that. They're like, I've never seen anything like this. And the reason for that is we have a standard of excellence put into our culture, so you can deliver that. But what you need to do is document how to deliver it. And then this is the major thing. Most people, your business is your baby, right? Like it's the most cherished thing you have. You don't want to give up the control for the fact that you might lose a customer, you might look bad in any way. But if you stop and document exactly how you would do it, and then you train somebody on who would do it, there's no way for you to grow. You're going to hit a point where you're going to hit your ceiling, and then you can't grow beyond that. So it's the only alternative you have. But what I found, it's really made the change, and I have to do coaching with entrepreneurs all the time, is what are your goals? If you want to grow and you want to scale, this is the only way to do it. Now, the best practice way to do it is this. If you hire any other virtual assistant company, they're going to give you a body, right? They're going to say, here's this person, go and put them in your business and good luck. The difference in working with Scale Virtually is we develop an end-to-end solution for you that says, what do you want this person to do? What are all the tasks you want to delegate to them? And then we are going to custom build their training for them with exactly how they execute that. We're going to custom build the start of day report where they're going to give you the transparency of what they're doing every day, and then an end of day report with what they complete every day. And all that information is KPI. We leverage an EOS methodology with the way we deliver our service. So it's in line with what most companies are doing. And it's also best practice. So everything that we build based on the big client base that we have is based on industry best practice. So even if you think you're really good at what you do, there's not been one company that we've worked with where we haven't been able to enhance what they do by us learning other best practice techniques from the industry that we can bring to their company and make it better.
I'm Jake Stenziano once again. I've never done this before. How do I even start processing or documenting something that I've done? Because I've even cut the grass. I've got that cherry red lawnmower. Grandpa used to push me around. I used to split my own logs. I do the weed whacking. I am like doing tiles. I'm writing leases. How do I even start with the documentation process?
You hire a VA, Gino.
Well, I'm a guy. I haven't gotten to the VA yet. I don't want to spend money on a VA. I want to do it myself. How do I even start that process before I can convince myself that I need a virtual assistant?
Well, I want to talk to that I'm a guy, because the I'm a guy if he's the leader and the CEO of his company, he's actually doing it a disservice. If he's doing $10 or $11 an hour work instead of the $500 an hour work to really grow his company, you're failing your own company. So I would really look at it that way first from a philosophy standpoint. Second is the first step that you take is if you don't, most people who start companies, if you're not a process engineer, we have 6 Sigma trained process engineers that know how to walk you through a methodology that's going to get you to the end goal. So if you don't know where to start, don't worry about it. Pick up the phone, give us a call. There's other companies out there that can provide you VAs, but I will tell you, there's some good ones and there's a lot of ones that aren't great. And the difference is the level of talent that you're able to recruit. We won, top places to work by the Chicago Tribune, which is a cultural award for a virtual staffing agency. That's an extremely hard thing to accomplish based on everybody being scattered site. But it just goes to show how strong our culture is, our training, and everything that we do for the staff that we have on. Now, when it comes to how you would get started, well, the first step is you identify the tasks that you hate. You identify the tasks that your team hates. You identify the tasks that are repeatable that you can get off your plate that are sucking a lot of your time. I'll go into the number one thing that changed the game for me. I was taking in about 150 emails a day, taking in about 25 to 50 phone calls a day. And the thing that I changed was I went through all of my email, and this is what we provide with an executive assistant. I went through all of my email and I looked at how I responded to all those emails over the last 90 days, and I templated my responses. So my VA from a transaction management standpoint could do the exact same thing for me. And then they knew exactly, and I started building the reports that were necessary for me to see that transparency as well. So now I got out of my email, and we all know every executive coaching program I've ever been to, the first thing that you do is you take a look at all the work that you're doing and how much time you're spending on it and what you should delegate. That's best practice with no matter what coaching program you go to. The thing that you need to determine is what can be delegated and what is really your sweet spot and your core genius, right? Stay in your core genius, delegate the rest. And I know that you might go email, like that's exactly what I need to stay in. And I'm the worst. Like, I was so hard for me to do this, but the thing that made it much easier for me is when I hired a nice, warm, bubbly customer service person and I put her on the phone and I gave her the exact script of how to answer the phone and I gave her the exact information and how to send it to me. That's what changed the outcome and how I viewed being able to delegate work, because my quality of life went from I was literally at like a 1 or a 2, and I rose to a 7 or an 8. Mm-hmm. Because if you just think of the drain of, I would just tell you, we can only make so many decisions a day, right? And can you imagine getting pounded with 150 emails a day, and then you're getting hit with another 25 phone calls? All that, a lot of that is just busy work. How can you parse that so you're only taking in the big decisions and making the big moves for your company that are really going to push it forward? Fast forward to, I started doing this about 8 years ago. I'm sitting on 5 companies that I work part-time in that are all growing on their own with great teams in place. If that's the vision that you have for your own business, that's what we can help you build.
So I'm going to continue on the Jake Stenziano thread. I was up in Knoxville last week, and he took me on this walk. It wasn't even a walk. We walked for 17 miles in 90-degree weather, and I had jeans on. And for a Floridian, I was sweating my ass off. And I'm like, bro, I love the walk, but I came back.
We got back to my elevator. His shirt was drenched.
Drenched. I'm like, I had another Peter Millar, and this show is brought to you by Peter Millar, but I'm like, you ain't walking in that. It was close. So if I'm the Jake Stenziano real estate person and I've got the executive assistant, what else does the typical real estate investor, whether they're in multifamily or they're doing single family or fixes and flips, where else do they need help in their business?
Sure. I'll give you the major positions that we leverage them for. So in my direct to seller company, I have a full team of ISAs that are calling on data all day long. They're data mining for me all day long. So for you guys looking for off market deals, we take in all the data that comes in auction, we underwrite it, we figure out which are the best. There's about 1,500 properties that hit our market on a monthly basis. We only look at the top 100. So my team does all that work for me. And that's 2 full-time people do that to get me to the top 100 deals. So, we make offers on, let's say 30 or 40 of them, and we win 15 on a monthly basis. That's how that works. Another thing that we leverage virtual assistants in is the transaction coordination part of the business. So scheduling all your inspections, all your appraisals, all your closings, taking in offers, prioritizing them, doing all the showings, all that can be done. We actually built out the operational procedure where our VAs actually fill out all of our lending applications. They fill out all of our MLS listings. We use We use a flat fee service to list all of our properties. So we save all that money from not paying a real estate agent, but doing it internally. These same practices can be applied to multifamily. On the other side is placing VAs in a role of a property manager assistant, a leasing coordinator, somebody in collections. Depending on the size of your company, you can have one person kind of doing all of those. If you have a 100-unit portfolio, that person can be nimble and flexible and support you in all areas of your business. But as you start scaling and you have 500, 1,000 units, you can specialize roles and get more value out of that person who's specialized in one thing. They do leasing all day, or they do maintenance coordination all day.
Yeah, let's talk about the maintenance coordinator. Do you guys have training for maintenance coordinators currently?
We absolutely do. So the way that we actually handle that, Jake, is we go through what you currently do. What system are you on? Appfolio? Are you on RealPage? What is the system that you're using? And what are the technologies that you're using? And we align people, process, and technology. So we're going to take a look at every single thing that could happen in maintenance coordination. So let's say there's a lockout. Okay, you call Charlie, the lockout guy, but you got to show up you got to give him a check for $75 when he shows up to pay for that lockout. Let's say somebody's toilet's out, but what we're really looking to determine is each property management company, you guys had your escalation threshold, whether it's 200, 300, 500, where a second person needs to come in and make a decision. If it's below 200, the VA just says, hey, the toilet's clogged. Let's get our maintenance guy over there. But before they do that, in most of the companies that we work with, we're using video to self-diagnose the problem, to send the video over to the person who is saying, hey, I've used the plunger. Hey, lift up the back of the toilet and put the hook back on. Now try flushing the toilet. It works okay, to save that money from having to send somebody to that property. But there's a lot of different ways that you can leverage a virtual assistant. What we found is that when we build out all of our documentation, the VA can handle 50 to 60% of the workload that a property manager used to take on. So what people are doing now is, if you think of how expensive a property manager is in your local market, it could be anywhere from 50 to 100,000, depending on your market. You're only paying like $20,000 for a VA to work in your company. You're saving $30,000 per role. And when you start scaling, especially the larger companies that have bigger support staffs, you can be saving $150,000, $200,000, $300,000 depending on the size of your company. And I would tell you that the hardest thing for me as an entrepreneur, and I don't know if you guys share this experience, but when we're growing and we're building a company, isn't the hardest thing being able to afford your next hire? For me,
it's a mental block a lot of the times. You actually are so tight-fisted in the beginning, and you're worried about paying yourself and some of this stuff, where it's hard to have the long view at that point, and it's much easier said than done. And a lot of times the money is there, but you don't want it to be, because you'd rather have it flowing to yourself. And it's more, sometimes you get a little greedy, or you're worried about, can we really afford this? There's just a lot of dynamics in play early on. Have you guys worked with Property Meld at all on the maintenance coordination side? What's your experience been there?
My experience with Property Meld is great. We actually use them right now. Property Meld is the company that I told you about. They have all the videos, so we can build that right in. So a Meld can go out and they're going to give you a video on how the VA can guide the person on how to fix a problem before you send out anybody on your maintenance staff, so you can save that money. And there's, from a percentage standpoint, they can save you I would say it's probably 30 to 40% of the tickets that come in. If you're sending somebody out for every single ticket and that person can actually fix their own problem, you always want to try to do that first. And most people just don't know how to do it. If it's, you got to send in, your maintenance guy out because the fuse box is out, but they don't even know how to flip the fuse. It's just a matter of saying, hey, where's the box? Go and flip this. And then they come back and they go, that actually worked. Thanks. Now you don't have to dispatch your staff and you save all that money. And a VA is the one that solved that problem.
Jake, I want you to talk about the maintenance coordinator and how revolutionary it can sort of be in our business. I mean, I don't want to say stumbled upon it, but what are the benefits, Jake, of having that maintenance coordinator on your staff?
It's a good question. I don't know yet. We haven't. We for the longest time have had, staffing of a property manager, assistant property manager, maybe a leasing assistant, and typically a maintenance lead, and then one tech for every 75 units. That's essentially been our structure. And we're up to 10 districts now, so 10 of these pods, if you will. And it was easier when it was 4 and it was 6 to find property managers that were able to handle maintenance at a high level and also run a leasing office, right? And as we continue to scale, that avatar, if you will, becomes harder and harder to find highly competent at a high level, right? And so what we're realizing is that maintenance coordinator position, the organization, the understanding of how a smooth, well-oiled maintenance machine runs is not as readily available in those prospects as they were when we only needed a handful of them. And so that's why, over the last few months, we've essentially made it a priority to begin onboarding maintenance coordinators. We haven't gotten to that point yet, but it's essentially going to be a Q4 priority to start implementing that. And, the piece to it that has looked interesting to us was pairing that with Property Meld, because I think there's some advantages to maybe the basic software is out there for that position. And this is probably where I'll volley or swing it over to Sean. Maybe you can speak to that as well, since it sounds like you're using it.
Absolutely. So as I stated before, Property Meld has worked out really well for us. Yeah. The one thing that I would tell you and I would suggest trying is for the unit base that you have and the pods that you're building out, what most people are doing is they're aligning a property manager with a property manager assistant that's a virtual professional. Okay, because you can get a lot more capacity, and they're gonna remove a big portion of the workload, that 50 or 60%. So now your property manager can do more of the hands-on customer service that the business really needs. And if I was hiring a property manager,
step one's the coordinator. One thing at a time here, Sean. I'm not opposed to it, but we got to get the maintenance coordinator in there first.
No, but keep going, Sean. I like the idea. Let's keep going on that thread.
Well, let me just state this because I don't think I was clear on this. A property manager assistant is literally a maintenance coordinator. So what?
Okay, I thought you were saying like an assistant property manager. I got you.
Yeah, well, it is, and this is what they do in the way that we set people up. Is a property manager assistant can come in and they're the triage. So they're the first level. So any tickets that come in via phone, email, text, they're the ones servicing those and doing the dispatch. Anything that's an escalation gets passed on to the property manager. In addition to that, let's say that we're talking about leasing. So what do you have to do with leasing? You have to post an ad, you have to take in the phone calls, you have to process an application, and then you have to make a decision. Well, the first 3 steps, posting the ad, taking in the phone calls, developing all the reporting on that, and then processing the application, all that gets done by a virtual assistant. So the only thing the property manager has to do is actually make a decision. And if you build a priority matrix on how you make your decisions for identifying the right tenant for you, the property manager assistant, which would be the coordinator, when you have a smaller portfolio, that's where you can use them for both. If you wanted somebody just solely dedicated to doing maintenance coordination, you could. But like when you depending on the size of the pond you have, somebody could be supporting in both fields. And
what's a good unit count for a maintenance coordinator? I have, I'm going to pull up my doc right now, what I was thinking. I'll give you my numbers. You can tell me if you think it's accurate. I was looking at anywhere from 400 to 600 units.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
I would say 400 would probably be the limit of what I would do. Okay. But here's the other thing that I would state. I saw the portfolio you guys have. You guys have acquired a lot of Class A stuff that's recent. Not going to be a lot of deferred maintenance. It really depends on a couple things. So,
great point.
So what is the size? Like, what is the location? Is your portfolio brand new development? Like, there's going to be a lot less calls on something like that. Is it a Class C? Is it a Class D? There's there could be 2 to 3 times the amount of phone calls depending on the asset class that you're in. So you have to right size it to the level.
You're like 400 units per coordinator then.
I would say, for me, it could be 200, 250 if you have like a Class C, D portfolio. You're going to have a lot more tickets. So what you do is a time and motion study to figure out the number of phone calls coming in, the number of emails coming in. So you can that's what we do for you. We can right size the level of activity that your portfolio, the labor that's actually required. Let me restate that. What we can do is right size the labor based on doing a time and motion study by looking at the number of phone calls, the number of emails that come in, and then we will quantify how much like time that's actually going to take the person to do the job. So we can align your labor in a way where you have a little bit extra, but you're not underserving the level of activity.
If there's if there's a property manager, assistant property manager, and a maintenance coordinator, does that change anything, or do you still feel it's 200 to 400?
No, it does change things. Like what I'm thinking about is a property manager and a maintenance coordinator. Like those two people, like it really depends. You probably need a leasing assistant in addition to that. That would be the last thing. And then you need your maintenance techs. That's what the pod would look like.
Yeah. Test and measure.
Yep.
I have a couple questions before I go to the short answers. The next one would be bookkeeping, because I think bookkeeping is the bane of a small person's business's mindset. And I know Jake just loved bookkeeping, and that was probably one of the first things that he just demolitioned and got rid of when we could. So talk about bookkeeping and how important it is to hire a VA to do some of that bookkeeping work.
Well, see, this is a big misconception. There's one of the misconceptions that I constantly find is people are like, VAs can only do admin level work. They're not really good at this, that, and the other thing. My controller is from the Philippines. He's from Ernst & Young. I mean, he's amazing. I have 2 full-time CPAs that support our effort across all of our companies that are both from the Philippines as well. They provide me with all my reporting, and my reporting is very in-depth. So from the standpoint of what a bookkeeper can do, this is another thing that you could consider. There's higher level positions that you could hire within your company where you're going to get, a lot more value, and you can maybe pay for a little bit more, especially if you guys are doing multifamily and you're making good money and you want to make sure you have really tight reporting going to all of your investors. That's what I would invest in personally, what I have invested in from my own investors. But from a bookkeeping standpoint, they can do reconciliations, they can do accounts payable, accounts receivable. My bookkeepers prep all of my docs. So the way our system works is I have expense reports that come in weekly, so I can see all my construction, and I can see my weekly trend line that totals into the total. So I know on every single asset how much profit I'm actually making. I can see that in real time, and I can see that against what we projected and what's actual. When I finish a project within 48 hours, I get a report that shows me exactly what the profit was from the deal. So I can see that almost instantly. When I'm doing doc prep for an investor and I'm showing them a deal, they can also prepare all that data. Now, if that data, I will also have double checked by somebody local, because they're not going to know. I would say they're not going to know the pro formas as well as somebody who's actually in the business and in the field. Some of those numbers might need to be adjusted, but they can put a base level together for you. And as I stated, from like a bookkeeping standpoint, those are people that are more data driven. So I would use them to do underwriting as well. Like I would leverage them to do other things if that's what you need. From a bookkeeping standpoint, QuickBooks Online, there's a number of different softwares that we've worked with where we're doing books for companies. And if you were to look at the testimonials on our website, we consistently hear, Sean, the bookkeepers that you've provided our company, they're better than our local staff.
Mm-hmm.
They're incredible. And you're getting them for a 70% discount. Mm-hmm. So it's an incredible value.
I should have asked this question in the very beginning of this show, so please forgive me. But if I'm looking to hire a VA or a VA company, what are some of the things you need to look into for the company? Because a lot of people look at cost. Hey, $2 an hour, that sounds great. But usually what I've learned in life is you get what you pay for. So when I'm hiring a company like Sean's, what do I look for in that company?
A couple things. So number one, if they have, how strong of a focus they have on process, because a VA is only going to be as good as the system that they walk into. Mm-hmm. I would say, I'm an owner operator in all these businesses who's actually stepped away from them, and I only work an hour a day in them, and they're running on their own and they're growing on their own. Like you want to have really good systems in place before you bring a VA on. That's number one. Number two is we provide you 3 candidates to look at. If you're going to another company, when I first got into this business, they would give me people that could speak English very well, that I could barely hold a conversation, and they were like being force-fed on me. So you got to make the determination. Do you have the time, knowledge, and systems in place to go and try to hire on your own from a place like Upwork? right? You can do that. But do you know, we have 15,000 applications we have 15,000 people coming into our company on a monthly basis, and we're only placing the top 1% of those people. So that means we go through 100 people to find you the best one. You have to have a lot of systems. We're doing personality profiling through predictive index to figure out, is this person right for this type of role? And then we have specialized training for each person. So we're testing them before they ever get placed with a client to see if they can actually do the job. You know, one of the biggest problems that I found is VAs want a job. If you say, hey, an admin person will take a sales job just because they need the money. So, like if they apply for that job, they're going to go for that job. And that's not the position's
they're
not
going to try.
They're going to try. It's not going to be aligned.
It's better than you can ask for some of the folks coming through the ranks here, right?
Yeah, but salespeople can sell pretty well, in terms of their ability to do other admin level work. And my suggestion is, number one, if you have the internal capabilities, make sure you build out a real thorough interviewing process. Make sure you build out a really good training process for them, just like you would any stateside staff. And this is one thing that I've always found funny is like, we will invest so much in our stateside staff, but the fact that you're not paying them the same amount when you can get more value, people don't invest in their training as much or the time with them. And I've always looked at my VAs like they're an extension of my business. They're a second me. And, like they can provide a tremendous amount of value in terms of helping me grow. If you adopt that mindset, you're going to get a lot more out of your VA. Like when we're having a party on Thursday for the company. And what we're doing is we're sending out dinners to all the VAs that are on that team so that they can feel like they're part of the team. In addition to that, we're gonna have a Zoom where we're going out to dinner at Boga de Chao, and we're gonna Zoom them in, but they get to have dinner with us while we're gonna talk about the successes that we've had so far this year, and then the plans of what we're gonna do.
It sounds like COVID
for the rest of the year. Yeah.
Was it the thing everyone was on house party or something?
Well, I think the point is, Jake, you don't want to leave them on an island where
no, dude, I'm being a smart ass. That's cool that you're doing that.
Yeah. I agree with that. And that's actually excellent because a lot of them are, virtual. So that's great. Let's take a quick time out to hear from our sponsor.
Now, we have had a great run in multifamily, going from 0 units to over $250 million in assets. That's over 2,000 apartment deals that we've been able to purchase through our framework, buy right, manage right, and finance right.
Now, Jake and I, we created the Jake and Gino community back in 2015. We launched our first book, Build Our Profits. And since then, our students have closed over 60,000 units. That's over $4 billion in assets they've been able to close over the last 6 years.
And that's why this community has been so successful. We call it results-based education, and we pour back into the community everything that we've learned on our journey from 0 to 2,000 units and all our systems and scale that we use on our very own property management and investing companies.
Jake, I love that. It's not just education, it's implementation. So what I want you to do, click on that link down below, apply to work with our team, see how we can help you on your journey in multifamily.
All right, guys, we are back. I was going to ask about one more bolt-on to the software for the multifamily users you may or may not be using. Tenant Turner, you're using that in your business at all?
I actually use Show Mojo, but we have several clients that use Tenant Turner. Tenant Turner, in my opinion, is like what I've heard is it's best in class. So I would.
And now is this the leasing where the lock is on the door, they can schedule and go look themselves? Because we used it back in the day with Lisa through AppFolio, but it was more of like the AI and the kind of placement of the calls. We haven't used it for that level yet. So I just love to hear your experience if you can speak to it.
Sure. So so this is what I found. It's market dependent, right? Like in my market, Chicago, I cannot do like, hey, here's a lockbox code, go to the property and do it all on your own. That would not fly in some of the areas.
Because you're gonna go in, there's not gonna be refrigerators, what you're saying, right?
Refrigerator, plumbing, everything.
Copper.
So, it's open, boys.
Thermostats.
I love it when people, I've had a lot of people go, oh, you have to do it. It's the greatest. I'm like, that would not work in my market. I have 10 full-time house sitters in my market that the second plumbing goes in, they're living in that property. A lot of what we do now, we've moved into the burbs. So the markets are different where we can actually leverage that type of capability, but you can't do that. It's geography dependent, definitely in Chicago. I think it's very useful and it can save a ton of time. But you also think it depends on the level of asset that you're pushing and what other things you have in place to do the vetting to make sure you're putting the right tenant in your property. Because, visually meeting someone, getting to know them, you're going to get a certain feel on whether that's a good tenant. And we all know what the difference is between a good tenant and a bad tenant. Usually on paper is one thing, but meeting them is definitely another thing. We actually go and see almost every single tenant that's going to our portfolio is met by one of our agents to work them into the property. But I know several companies that are doing this very successfully, where the market just doesn't demand that. Their rent might be $2,000 to $3,000 a month, and in the market that they're in, it's not required, and it hasn't hurt their business either. I would highly recommend Tenant Turner, though. The way that you can leverage a VA to leverage Tenant Turner is all the data that gets fed into Tenant Turner, all the showings that happen, all the reminders. So we actually use VAs to do calls and get feedback on what they thought of the property. We do the same thing for maintenance calls too. So one thing that companies can't afford to do is do QA when you're paying for all stateside staff. You just don't have, it's not cost efficient to do that. But this is how you can level up as a business and get more value and understanding your customer base better, is when you're actually getting QA. So every single showing that happens from a sale or from a leasing appointment, we actually track all the feedback, and we can feel like, small rooms, there's water in the basement. We can get out and fix things a lot faster with that type of data coming in real time.
So, I think I saw from CNN the other day, there's been 10 or 11 million people that have come to the country in the last few years. So how is your business shifting now that the virtual assistants are stateside? Are you able to leverage that for maintenance and whatnot? Are you has the virtual come stateside, and are you finding a way to lever these folks for employment 1099?
We are at this point. I have the guys that I have on my team. I'm pretty removed from that. I'm not aware of what we're doing on the hiring side. I know what we try to do is work.
No, I'm not saying personally. Your Scale Virtually levers, people from different countries and and whatnot. Are you able to tap into the people that are now stateside for Scale Virtually for some more hands-on type work?
No,
that might even be an illegal question. I don't know, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, I would say it's probably, there is a legal question. We're not doing that right now.
Yeah. But this may be your next business venture, because there's quite a few folks that need work that are here. I don't know and this is not. This is literally with a thought that popped in my head. It's like, these people are going to need to work. Is this going to be a Scale Virtually bridge to these people's mode of employment?
Let me flip that on you. Because This is what we do. We actually look for people.
He's like, I'm not touching that shit.
We look for people that have been.
It's a good question, though. I'm sorry. It is a good question.
Educated here and then moved to Mexico or moved to the Philippines, and they speak and understand our culture really well. Because the market, basically what they're able to make, you're not going to be able to pay the same rate here that you would in the Philippines or in Mexico or in the places that we hired from. So that model, from a model standpoint, that wouldn't work. And I already have my next business picked out. It's going to be buying and selling businesses. That's what we're moving into next. It's just on the distress level. That's what we're going after with our
buy right, manage right, finance right.
And our company is ideally suited to support those businesses with what we do on the app.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, most of the folks listening are multifamily entrepreneurs here. What do you think the first VA hire should be for most folks that are running a multifamily business?
It depends on the stage of business that you're in. If you're just getting started, you're probably going to need someone supporting you in acquisitions and reaching out to people and getting deal flow coming to you. If you're seasoned and you have 200 units, what I would ask you is, what does your team look like? So, Jake, what we want to do is assess where they're at from a team structure standpoint and figure out where they really need that support. Is it leasing? Is it maintenance coordination? Is it bookkeeping? It's usually a combination of those things. Everybody has a unique need, but I would state wherever, if you're looking to replace somebody or if you're looking to grow your portfolio substantially, a VA is a nice way to just put somebody in at a much reduced cost to help support that growth with a leader in place. You're always going to need a PM that's fully driving the operation, but then you bring a VA in support too. If you have a 100-unit portfolio, that VA can help out. And this is where I said PM assistant, that could support in coordination, in potentially bookkeeping, in also doing your leasing as well. So they can be helping in a multitude of capacities. As you get to that 300, 400, 500 unit portfolio, that's when you can get specialization moving in, and you'll get more value.
Give me your thoughts from a business owner's perspective. You're doing the hiring, virtual assistants versus AI.
Right now, this is the consensus. AI. We have a lot of clients that are implementing AI, and there has been a need to have the AI checked. There's QA on all the AI that needs to be put in place right now. It's not at the same level today as we would need human interaction. And the other thing I would say is AI, let's just say there's 5 steps in a process. There's 5 steps in a leasing process. AI can do maybe 1 or 2 of those really well and better than a human, but they can't call them and say, hey, you've been approved and here's when you're going to move in. You can automate a lot of those things, but companies still want the personal touch on that. So it's really identifying where in your business you're going to use AI and how VAs can complement the support of that AI. So that's the way I look at AI, and we're strong proponents of what AI can do, and I've seen what it can do, and it's pretty incredible. But I think it's going to, like within the next year, the advances that are going to be made there, because AI right now, what I view, AI only gets enhanced with data, and a lot of AI needs a lot of data. So depending on the size of your company and the number of transactions that are going through, that's how the AI is going to learn how to react to whatever's coming in. And if you're a smaller company at 100, I always say, how much can AI really benefit you as opposed to your own portfolio of 10,000? There's a lot of data going through. So you got to do the kind of the cost benefit analysis of what kind of disruption that would potentially be in your business and what kind of value you get out of it. I would argue the larger companies have a lot more to gain than the smaller companies do. And I could be wrong on that. But
we've shopped it, and my take on it is that it's cost prohibitive right now. Meaning that if you're looking to create a bot, the cost is going to be on par with a VA, and the bot is going to have limited functionality from my perspective at this point, where the VA is going to have a multitude of functionality. Like, it's weird talking about humans like this, but ultimately the VA is going to be able to perform more tasks, and not even to your point of having to pick up the phone. Right. And I think it's going to take less to get that VA up and going versus artificial intelligence. So I personally, I haven't seen it being there yet for us.
Well,
right.
Let me tell you where I'm using AI in a lot of different parts of my business, and we're actually collaborating with a lot of the clients that we work with to build their AI. So what we're doing is downloading all their logic, and then we have a third-party AI company that we work with that actually puts it in action. So we're doing this with people that are buying land. I've seen how it's being done in maintenance coordination. There's a lot of applications to this. On the acquisition side, we have AI right now where I'm taking in all the MLS lead, everything that hits the MLS within 15 minutes. My buy box is set up so that I can see if this hits my buy box, I can send an automated offer to it. So
there's speed there. That's great. Yeah.
Well, there's speed and there's velocity, and there's if you can get out 100 offers and they're at your price point, there's a lot of different ways to use it in very unique ways. But to your point,
there's a volume play there that's different from like multifamily though, where you might see 2 deals a week, and it's a little bit different there, but yeah.
True, but I would say
yours is a little more retail based, almost, where you can just buy and sell it quickly. Yeah,
it's coming, and it's coming fast. And I think what I've seen. I attend and speak at the largest real estate conferences in the country, so I'm at all of them. And I would say going back 2 years ago, there's really nothing AI level. People would throw the buzzword around, but it was really a buzzword. Within the last year, there's some companies that they're saying they do AI, but then when I would talk to them and say, what's your application and how are you using it? It still wasn't industry ready. And now, I've actually seen it work.
And we may be working with the wrong vendors too, that are just cost prohibitive, right? The folks that we've been working with. So, I think I'm looking for the opening still in terms of this is where we want to place our first one, because there's going to be a path. I just haven't seen it yet, but also, we may be looking in the wrong places. So,
well, I can't say that I've met any AI companies that have stood out among the rest. And I think what you'll find is just like in larger industry, the bigger companies like your Appbolios, your Buildiums, they're going to be looking at AI application and building that into their infrastructure for you. I feel like that's where there's going to be a big gain.
Yeah, we're obviously using it there, right? But that's not us creating it. So
yeah. Well, so we're developing AI. So like, depending on what your use case application would be, like, what if you wanted it in leasing? We can help you do that. And we can help you do that on a market. But like you said, at this point in the game, depending on the amount of units you have, it might be cost prohibitive to do.
Mm-hmm. And we've used it with Lisa and Appfolio.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay-ish. It's been all right. It didn't blow our socks off. So, anyways, Gino, the Pink Man today, take us home.
Well, before I take you home, Sean, what can the listeners get a hold of you?
There's two ways they can get a hold of me. You guys can go to scalevirtually.com and book an appointment. My email address is Sean, SEAN, at scalevirtually.com. That's SCALEVIRTUALLY.com. I'd love to, and we love to talk to anybody that is in need for a VA in their business, or if you need standard operating procedures built into your business. We are a systems-based business. We have a full team of 6 Sigma process engineers that can come in and take a look and help you develop the systems that are really going to enable your business to scale. Guys, thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, Jake wants me to wrap this bad boy up. He just liked the shirt. He just completely forgot where he was in this part of the show. And I get it. I mean, I know he wants to be in Florida going to play golf. I get it, Jake. But anyway, you got a young Sean Connolly getting out of college, going into sales, into IT. And then after that, he goes into online marketing and he decides to buy 9 multifamilies in like 3 months. I mean, we bought 9 multifamilies in like 6 years, Jake. Sean's not Jake and Gino. Sean's like all in. He's pushing his chips all in. And then he's like, holy crap, what the hell am I doing here? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I was getting burned out. How do I scale this bad boy? And all of a sudden he stumbles upon the virtual assistant, which I guess years ago was rather non-existent. It was one of those ideas that people were talking about, very similar to artificial intelligence of today. Give it some time. He was at the forefront of that. And he decided to say, you know what? I don't want to work 14 hours a day. I want to work 1 hour a day on several businesses to create multiple streams of income. And he created Scale Virtually, and full transparency, the Jake and Gino community members use it. They love it. Jake and Gino has used his services as well. We love it. And if you're out there, whether you have 1 unit or whether you have 1,000 units, there's always a place for a virtual assistant in your life. Hit Sean up at Scale Virtually, and you will thank Jake and Gino for helping you scale your business. Jake, take it away, brother.
You got it, man. As always, gang, we believe in buying deals for the long term. Think in decades. I'm Jake. He is the G Daddy with the pink shirt on today, and we make it happen. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, guys. It's been a lot of fun. Appreciate it.